decided to celebrate my birthday, and here in Australia you'd probably expect parades in the street and things like that, but decided to keep it fairly low key. So what we're going to do is we're going to head off to see our son, or one of our sons, Mrs. Devotea and me. We'll be heading around there and we'll be having the Great Australian Tea Taste-Off. What I've done is I've gathered all of the tea that's made in Australia, and we're going to try them all and decide which one we think is the best. Now, it won't be a cupping exercise. It won't be a case of a perfectly spherical pot and exactly the right amount of tea and so many minutes and poured out, and none of that nonsense. I use all these teas regularly. I'm going to make them all differently according to how I think that particular tea is best shown off, and we're going to rate them on enjoyment, not on anything else. So let's run through the teas before we head off. The first one I'd like to speak to you about is the Narada tea. Now, this is just in my tea caddy because my bag split. But this is from Narada in Queensland. Put some there. It's a CTC tea. The bag says that it may be blended with imported ingredients, so I can't really be certain that that is 100% Australian tea. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. As I said, it's a CTC, it's a dark tea, it's the cheapest of all the Australian teas. The Narada plantation was started in 1882 by some brothers, and they grew everything. They grew coffee, they grew chicory, they grew tea, they grew just anything that they thought might grow, and eventually it sort of settled down to a few crops, and then it got completely wiped out by a cyclone around the end of the First World War. And then in 1950, the current founders rediscovered the spot. Some of the tea bushes were still growing and turned it into a working tea plantation. Now, after that we come on to 1978 for the other two Australian teas to make their emergence. Now, Madura, which is grown in northern New South Wales, well, for one thing, they're giving away $1 million, allegedly, but I have read the small print and it's going to be virtually impossible for me to win it, despite having bought many packets of their tea. I actually, a Christmas or two ago, I got a nice Madura tin, so I've actually bought that and put that in there. That's what it looks like. Now, Madura tea is not 100% Australian. It says quite clearly on it that it is blended with North Indian and Ceylon teas. They claim a kindred with the Assam tea, and I think that's probably where their extra tea comes from. But so it's not 100% Australian, but it's an Australian company, and they're certainly growing tea. They've got 250,000 bushes. Okay, so let's put down here some of the Madura Premium Blend, and also some of the Madura Green. I don't have a packet yet. And there we go. Something's gone terribly wrong at Madura because it says leaf tea on the box, and it's a tea bag. Okay, we move on. Here's some Daintree bulk tea. Bought this from my local tea merchant. Is a favourite tea, it must be said. 100% Australian grown. It's grown in places in Queensland where they have 4 metres of rainfall annually. That's a lot of water. A lot of beautiful fresh water, alluvial soils. It's a very distinctive tea. It's very much a brown colour. It looks quite different to the other two. So there you go. I'm going to collect up my 3 teas. I think I'll skip the green and head off to visit Saxon, and we'll sit around, have some tea and let you know what we think. I'll see you there. Hi, well, now I've arrived, and with me is our panel of experts. Now, what I said earlier is that I don't believe in cupping or drinking tea, producing it at the right temperature and putting it in fancy special cups and leaving exactly the right thing. I think that just makes a dreadful cup of tea. I prefer to do tea tasting with people enjoying tea. So what we have here is 3 people who drink tea in entirely different ways. We have Anne.
Hello.
Otherwise known as Mrs. Devotea, who drinks tea with sugar and milk. We have Saxon. our son, who drinks his tea with milk and sweetener, and I drink my tea black with no sugar. So we're all going to try the Daintree at first. So we'll give that a go. There you go. Saxon. Grown in Queensland, pure Australian tea. Let's give this a go. Alright, first thoughts, Saxon?
It's really grassy.
Grassy?
I reckon.
Unpleasantly so with the milk?
No.
No? No, I think earthy. That's the word I always think of with this tea, earthy. What do you think?
I think it's really classical. It's a great breakfast tea, I think. It's got that sort of very clean taste to it. You can imagine having a nice bit of toast with it, something like that.
And it's, as I say, 100% Australian, grown in Queensland. So now we're going to move on to tea number 2. Okay, we're back with the Madura tea. Now this tea is grown in northern New South Wales, and it's sold as a blend. Australian tea mixed with quality imported tea. So let's just give that one a go. Now we're having this hot on the tail of the Daintree. What's your thoughts?
It's almost got some honey tones in it, I find. It's quite a sweet tea.
Alright, and what do you think, Jason?
I agree. It's really sweet. It's really also kind of mild, like Darjeeling.
How Australian does it taste to you?
Not particularly.
Yeah, it strikes me that it's got a fair percentage of an Indian or a Ceylon tea in there. It doesn't have that richness of the Australian teas.
Yeah, it's quite different to the Daintree.
Very much so. Okay, we'll enjoy this and be back in a minute with the next tea. Okay, we're back again, and this time we've got the final tea, the Narada. Comes out of Queensland. According to the box, it's occasionally blended with teas from other countries when seasonal factors make that essential. So let's give it a taste. I might go my thoughts first on this. I think it's quite earthy, like the Daintree. It comes from the same region. I think it's got plenty of body. It looks quite light, quite green when you pour it, but I think it is quite strong. And it's even though it's a CTC tea, it's you have to brew it fairly carefully. I think give it a quick, strong steep and out of there, and it works quite well. So my thoughts are it's woody, it's very nice black. What's it like with milk and sweetness?
I don't know so much as it's strong, so much as it sticks around afterwards. Like it's
Just
a
a
really
long
nice
aftertaste.
aftertaste. Yeah.
A bit like the Ceylons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and your thoughts, Anne?
It's quite grassy. The aftertaste is quite grassy, more so than the Daintree, I think.
It sort of hits a line as far as how Australian it tastes between the Daintree and Madura.
Well, I mean,
It's very earthy.
it's a high rainfall area. It's very strong organic soils, so it is quite a unique growing environment. Okay, so to wrap up, we've tried the Daintree, we've tried the Madura, and we've tried the Narada. Saxon, how would you rank them?
Daintree was the best, definitely, and the other two are about the same level.
Okay, and your thoughts?
Definitely Daintree for me, with the Madura second and this one
The
last.
Narada third. Okay, well for myself, it's definitely the Daintree first. That's a clear winner. It's a much better, stronger, higher quality tea, without a doubt. Having experimented with the Narada over several weeks, I think it needs to be made carefully to be at its best, but at its best it's a better tea than the Madura, but it's not very forgiving. You've got to get it right. And the Madura is still a reasonable tea, but when I drink Madura, it tastes like I'm drinking a Ceylon blend or an Indian blend. It doesn't strike me as particularly or quintessentially Australian. So there you go, that's our great Australian tea tasting. Cheers, and we'll see you next time.